Hey, how you guys doing? Good. You guys having a long day of learning? Yeah, that was a great talk because I think it ties up nicely to what I want to talk about here. As soon as you started my clock, and there we go. Okay. So I want to introduce myself. I want to introduce myself this way. Look, Deborah got me one of these. Isn't that cool? Because I've been coming to this event for 10 years. That's how old I am. So I've been coming to this thing for a long time. Please don't let me forget that. So let me introduce myself. I'm Jaime Casap. I'm the Education Evangelist at Google. I've been at Google now for 13 of those years, focused on technology and education. This is me and Adrian Sainer when we launched Google Apps for Education at Arizona State University a long time ago, 2006. I'm part of the team that launched Google Apps into K-12. Today we have between 80 and 100 million users using these tools in universities and in school systems across the world. And I launched I had this crazy idea of launching this tool called Chromebooks into education, and launched Chromebooks in education a couple years after that. So I am focused on how do we use technology in a learning environment in education. So I work across all the different teams at Google. I get to travel around the world and speak at events. I collect badges. It's my OCD. I started a school in Phoenix with the ideas that we're talking about here called the Phoenix Coding Academy. Come and visit. It's a school focused on computer science embedded with all subjects at Google. All subjects at the school. So it's learning through computer science and art and history and math together in a cross-disciplinary way. This is not a charter school. This is not a private school. It's an actual regular K-12 high school in Phoenix Union. We're 3 years in. Kids are great. A lot of the things that I'm talking about today and a lot of the ideas and concepts are in this school. For example, we don't have homework. We don't have grades. And we're trying to get rid of grade levels so that we can assess kids as they come in, figure out where they fit, and then work on projects with them. So that's the school. I also teach 10th grade communication skills in the school. And the reason I do this is because if you can get 10th graders to pay attention, you can talk to anybody, right? So this is kind of my litmus test for my speaking ability, is being able to gather 90 kids and be able to talk to them. So those are some of the things I do. I just launched a YouTube channel that all you guys are going to subscribe to, focused on some of the ideas that are here, but really it's about the skills that you need, career advice for young people who are just starting a career, for students, those types of things. I'm trying to launch one of these every week. But my passion for education comes from where I think we're headed, because we are now entering a new phase of the economy, right? We are no longer preparing kids for jobs that look like this, obviously. And even for jobs that are in manufacturing, they look completely different. We're not even preparing kids for what I call white-collar jobs, where we used to have people with a higher skill set go to work and do work in a white-collar environment. We now are entering a new phase of the economy, what I call the digitalization economy, where I'm talking about everything that you guys might be working on, everything around computer science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AR, VR, the whole package, all those things. I get to travel around the world, and every person, every organization, every country, every state, everything is figuring out what the impact of digitalization is on everything that they do. So that whole package. And the reason why is because technology, whether we realize it or not, digitalization has wrapped itself around the core of everything that we do, and we don't even think about it anymore. For example, how many of you have not used technology today? Right, it's so silly. A couple weeks ago, this woman in the front row, when I asked that question, raised her hand, and I was surprised. And so I looked at the woman because she was raising her hand, and she had her phone in the other hand when she was raising her hand. Right, I mean, how long did it take us to get to this point? How many of you have iPhones? Oh, I hate to see that. Okay, the iPhone is 11 years old, right? Do you remember we used to have to call the internet with our home phones, and the internet would be busy? and it would hang up on you, right? And you didn't mind, and your reward for this effort that you put into it was a bunch of pages with words that linked you to other pages that had words. And this was the most exciting thing that you saw. And today, what's your expectation with technology? Instantaneous. I myself try not to use Wi-Fi on airplanes because I find myself too frustrated, maybe you do this too, that web pages are not loading fast enough while I'm traveling through space, right? That's a level of expectation that we have today. And if that's true for a lot of us who are minding our own business when this thing called the internet showed up, what do you think that means for a generation of kids who don't know what the world looked like before Wi-Fi, who don't know what the world looked like before devices, who don't know what the world looked like before Google or anything else that is technology-driven? This generation is a different generation, and I'm not going to get into who they are. I do this whole talk on Generation Z and the things that they care about, but this generation, all we need to know right now about them is that they think about learning in a different way than we think about learning. Not better, not worse, different because of the world they were born into. This is my 17-year-old when he was 13, comes into my office with a bug in his code. Can't seem to solve it. Big issue, he's frustrated, flustered, comes in. I made him take a step back so I could take this picture because, not to embarrass him, but because I had no idea he was learning how to code. He was teaching himself how to code. We waited for people to teach us. We took classes. We went and waited for instruction, where this generation just starts learning. And one of the points of this talk is I don't think we're taking advantage of that. I think we're still trying to take kids and fit them into the old model when they don't know the old model. They only know this model. This generation thinks about learning in a different way. I remember when I started my professional career 25 years ago, and I remember when I wanted to learn how to write in Spanish better. I speak and read in Spanish, and I write a little bit. I wasn't very good, so I wanted more, and I had to go to a community school, community college, to take a Spanish class on a Monday night from 6 to 9, and I slept to 2/3 of that class every Monday night. We waited for people to teach us. This generation thinks about learning in a different way, and we're not taking advantage of that. And if you think about what this generation faces from this digitalization economy, they're facing a different environment, right? They don't know that at one point humans used to do this, right? Now they know that machines do this. And those of us that were there when we saw the automation and the robots replace humans in the factories, in automobile factories, we watched those robots do this work, and now those robots are coming off and they're walking around. And what is this technology going to look like in 10 years? And I get to look at people's jobs in terms of whether it's a human's job or a robot's job. What is this going to be like in 10 years? Because they are already doing things like, building walls. I just recently had the back wall of our house redone, and there were 12 people out there working on that wall. When is it that robots and machines are going to be able to do that? Or even things like they're packing our boxes and shipping them to us. Ever walk into an Amazon warehouse? You find 6 football fields deep of stuff and like 6 people that work in there. Because the rest of them are these little orange robots that are doing this kind of work. And we're starting to see the impact right now, this digitalization economy at the beginning, against lots of things in different industries. For example, they're doing farm work. Already today, they're doing this kind of work. And they're starting to hit other industries. For example, there are 4.5 million people in this country who make a living driving things. Driving supplies, driving equipment, driving people. Someone drove me from the airport here. And you can go buy a self-driving car today. Today, you can go to the store, go to Walmart. Walmart tells them. You can go to Walmart and buy a self-driving car. Okay, you can't go to Walmart, for those of you not from this country. But what is this going to look like in 10 years? What is this going to look like in 20 years when it comes to humans' jobs? And this is happening across all industries because, for example, everyone here recognizes what this is, right? This is a supermarket. And you have to ask, what are the workers in this supermarket doing? They're doing what I call process work. They're taking your cans, scanning them, and putting them in a bag for you. And then they're watching you use the keypad. This job is so easy, you can do it. Because what do you find in supermarkets today? Self-service checkout. Anyone take a training class on how to do self-service checkout? I wish some people would take a training class. But you don't take a training class to do this. And I have all the confidence in the world that you can do this job because that job belongs to my 4-year-old. She's the one who does this job. That's how easy this job is. So you have to ask yourselves, what's next? Well, Amazon, for example, is saying, well, why do people need to check anything out at all? Why can't you check yourself in? Like in airports, it's clear. Check yourself in, and then grab whatever you want off the shelf and walk out. What is that going to look like in the next couple of years? And so you have to ask yourself, what is a supermarket going to look like in the next 10 years? Here's the thing. The sensationalism that I've kind of been trying to illustrate here is that robots and automation are coming to take all your jobs. And I don't believe that's what's happening. I believe that automation and robotics are coming to take parts of your job, and they're coming to take them. And they've been coming to take them since I've been working for 25 years. This is a trend that's been happening, and you can start seeing it in a supermarket, right? Because if you think about supermarket shopping as a concept, I hate it. How many of you like going grocery shopping? There's a couple, weirdo. I hate it, right? Especially when I was single, because at one point I was buying the same 10 crappy ingredients to make the same 2 crappy dishes, and it's a terrible experience. Now, I'm a supermarket owner, and I don't have to hire process workers anymore. Does this mean supermarket jobs are going away? No, it means that supermarket jobs are changing, because now, as a supermarket owner, I don't have to hire process workers. I can hire different people. Now I can hire nutritionists. I can hire food experts. I can hire cooks. I can hire dietitians. So when you walk into my store, you're not going to have that crappy experience. I'm going to give you a good experience. You're going to come in and I'm going to say, what are your nutritional goals this week? What is it that you want to make? What are the ingredients that you need? Oh, you don't know how to blend those 2 things. Let's walk over here and I'll show you how to do that in my demo station. Jobs are shifting, and that's happening across all industries. Like in banking, ATMs, we're going to replace bankers. And there are more people working in the banking industry today than there were when ATMs were introduced. They're doing a different job. And this is happening across the board. And by the way, all jobs are being impacted by automation and technology. And when I was doing my research on this topic, and I go a lot deeper than the 20 minutes I have today, this has been happening for a long time as well. I realized that 25 years ago, when I went to work for the first time, I was faced with automation and robotics, because on my desk was a dummy terminal with email capabilities. Yeah, I'm old, right? And 10 years before that, maybe 5 years before that, I would have to go if I wanted something typed up and mailed, I would have to go write it on a piece of paper, hand it to a typing pool, and that typing pool would type it up and then give it back to me, and we'd go back and forth on the edits, and then they would finally get it, then they would mail it, and that's how we used to process information. And there was a word processing machine on my desk, an email platform where I can now send my own emails, my own messages. Automation and robotics have been replacing us for a long time. And so we have to ask, what are the skills that our kids need in this world that we're building? In this world where technology moves at the speed that it's moving at. And you have to ask yourself, what is the most critical thing to focus on? And so I want you to think about this. I want you to think about what the world looked like 200 years ago or 150 years ago when we first started. I'm a photographer, right? So when we first started doing photography, what the world looked like back then. And then think about what the world looks like today with all the technology, all the modern conveniences, all the medicine, all the medical procedures we have today, and then realize that everything that we do today, every technology we have, every innovation we have today, was available to us 200 years ago. Right? If you think about it, it's not like a spaceship crash landed here and dropped off all modern technology for us. We're using the exact same resources. What's different? Why didn't we invent this 200 years ago? It's because learning took too long. Learning was a long process. If I wanted to work with someone on my photographic machine and I lived in New York and the other person lived in San Francisco and I had to go to that person, that was a 3-month journey if I would survive the journey at all. And learning and collaborating took a long time. Well, today, this next generation, this online generation that I mentioned, this digital generation, doesn't even know how to operate in that world. They immediately operate at the speed at which digitalization is taking place, because collaboration now is seamless. I don't have to get on a train and travel across the world to work with someone. This is Gretchen from Sweden, who started a movement for teenagers on climate change. She has been protesting climate change. She's been recognized by organizations. She's gotten to the point where there are 100 students in 100 countries protesting with her across the board. Think about how seamless and fast that process is. And she was just nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And if she wins, that'll be 2 teenagers who win the Nobel Peace Prize in the last 5 years. This is a different generation, and they think about the world differently because of what they were born into. So that's one idea. The other thing that's happening is around information. Information was this valuable concept that we had. How many of you are rewatching Game of Thrones before the season? How close are you guys? You guys close? We took off. Next Sunday, we're getting rid of the 4-year-old just to watch whatever episodes are left. But the last episode we watched was when Sam Tully wanted to go be a maester. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. But he wanted to go be a maester. He had to get on a boat and then on a horse and then to go learn at the Citadel. And then like years would go by. This is how he operated for a very long time. Now we have information at our fingertips, and it is no longer about information. Putting information in kids' heads, as we were talking about in the previous section, about learning. What does learning mean? What is it that kids are learning? If we take information and understand what information is a commodity. It has no value. It's what we do with that information. So how are we building tools to help students take information and convert it into perspective, into original thought? What are we doing in our institutions to help students build intelligence from the information that we have, right? So that's the second thing that's happening in the space. And then the third thing is this idea of creativity and how long creativity took. Collaboration took a long time, information took a long time, creativity and storytelling took a long time. This, for those of you who aren't nerdy like me, this is a set from Star Wars. For this team, by the way, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch these behind the scenes, the making of Star Wars, the making of the Empire. It'll blow your mind what they had to do to tell a story. This is how you had to tell a story. You had to build the whole set. You had to have all this resources, money, all this took time and effort to do this. And today, kids can create a story in a second. They can tell stories wherever they want. They can share information. They can be instructors. When I started, 2 things here. When I started my YouTube channel, my daughter's a video producer. My oldest, I have 3 kids. I have a 26-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 4-year-old. That's right. I can only handle one at a time. But my 26-year-old is living in New York. She's working at CNN as a video producer. She makes all the fake news that you guys watch. So I asked her, hey, I want to start this YouTube channel. What do I need to know? And she said, okay, just start here. Shoot at 1080. You don't need to shoot in 4K. Shoot at 24 frames per second. Double your frame rate. If you want to slow down your footage, shoot it at 60, but make sure you double the frame rate. Try to keep your ISO at 100. So if you go outside, make sure you use an ND filter because you don't want to change the shutter speed. And I said, thank you very much. Thank you. What do any of those words mean? Had no idea, no concept. And today, 6 months later, I can have a debate, an argument with a Sony person about why Canon's better and whether the bit rate should be 8, 10, or 12, and should I be recording my bit rate on the outside of the machine or inside. I mean, I could have these detailed arguments with people. That's the speed at which learning can happen today. And anyone can be an instructor, and anyone can tell a story. So it changes how we think about learning at the speed at which learning can happen. And we want to, because of that, we want to really think about lifelong learning and what that means. Are you building lifelong learning tools? And we say lifelong learning in education, especially in higher education, but we don't mean it. Because I remember, and I'll admit this in public, I remember when I finished the last paper in graduate school, the last 60-page paper on that WordPerfect 5.1 machine. I hit print for that dot matrix printer, so I had a good 45 minutes to sit there and think about the world. And I sat there and I thought, I'm done. I am done learning. I never have to learn again. That wasn't true 25 years ago, and it's definitely not true today. How are we building lifelong learning capabilities for our students who have to, in this world, be able to continuously learn and build their skills? And I said to, there's my daughter as a film producer, and I said to Michael Crow, president of ASU, a couple years ago, we're sitting at dinner, and I said, why did you abandon my daughter? And he knows how annoying I am. He's like, okay, I'll bite, what do you want? And I said, well, she graduated from ASU. At that point, it was 2 years ago, and she hasn't heard from you since. And he's like, okay, what do you mean? Well, she gets the Alumni Association emails, and she gets the Visa Alumni Association emails. But why isn't she getting an email using the technology that exists today, and that was 2 years ago, using the technology that exists today? Why isn't she getting an email that says, hey, Lane, what are you doing today? Oh, you're working as a video producer at CNN. I just scanned through your transcript, and you took a lot of video production classes during the 4 years you were here. There's been a lot of updates to those classes because the technology moves so fast. Would you like to take an updated video production class? Oh, I just scanned through your transcript. You didn't take a journalism class. You're working in a journalism field. Would you like to take a journalism class? And by the way, there's 12 other people who are also interested in taking a journalism class. Would you like to form a learning group? And we'll find you a facilitator to manage that learning. Why aren't we doing things like that? So I say to him, why isn't everything that she learns for the rest of her life not going through edu or asu.edu? Whatever it is that she wants to learn. And how do we create partnerships and collaborative networks where ASU and other institutions can work with partners to provide specific learning that students need to know at the speed at which they need to know it, because learning happens today at a speed that we've never seen before. What you can learn today is insane. And I'm not talking about, learning concepts of philosophy, although you could do that, or learning about a specific subject like medicine, because I think you need to go into detail. But in a general sense, how you can learn today. Are we building tools? And to be honest with you, I see a lot of tools being built that are replacing current models. I don't see a lot that are thinking about what does this mean? What does this digitalization mean in the education space to build that? So I'll close out with this. I got a minute left. I want you to think about my 4-year-old, and by the way, reach out, Twitter, LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I want you to think about my 4-year-old and then think about whatever technology it is that you have with you, whether it's your iPhone, your Surface tablet, your MacBook, your AirPod, your iPad extra large, the one that's like this big. People walk around the Grand Canyon. I want you to think about all that and then realize that that technology that my 4-year-old sees, for me it's the Pixel 3 XL. Anyone have one? The latest and greatest technology from the most innovative company in the world? I'm kidding. I want you to think about this technology in my 4-year-old and realize that this is the worst technology she will ever see in her life. This is her Commodore 64. In 20 years, she's going to find this in a 50-cent box at a thrift store. And she's going to look at it. She's going to be hanging out with her younger friends, and she's going to say, I have to have this. My dad had one of these. Because she's going to want to put it on her shelf like a museum piece. The way some of you have old technology sitting on your shelves like museum pieces. And she's going to look at it, and she's going to say to her younger friends, look, there's the port. And her friends are going to be like, what's that for? And she's going to say, listen, I know I'm going to sound crazy, but it's true. There's YouTube videos about this. My dad had to plug this into the wall. And those kids are going to say, what? Like, you mean like take it out of the box, activate the nuclear cell? No, he had to plug this into the wall every day. For hours, this thing was plugged into the wall. And those kids are going to look at her with disgust and disdain. And they're going to say, oh, my God, how did those people live like that? Those are the kids who are coming into our school system. What are we doing from the development perspective to build the knowledge, the tools, and abilities that they need to solve the problems that they're going to be interested in solving? And how are we building the tools at a speed at which learning can happen today? And that's what I hope we all focus on. Thank you guys very much.